Hey, it's Tony from Hobbit Racing. Welcome back to the Shire. We are revisiting the Nissan Skyline GTR. This is the CA47a, the infamous Castrol that ran away with the 1990 Macaw race. But also, if you're familiar with this Slot.it car, you also know that it's a bit tipsy. So I needed to revisit it. So let's do that. So what we are working on here is the infamous Nissan. This car is a great car. In real life, the Skyline GTR, many variants, right? I don't know how many there are, but there's different R versions of the GTR. However, in the slot car world, even though it was a car that I would agree that I felt like it was a needed car. It didn't necessarily run in DTM. And if you know the story about this particular livery, you'll know that this car was never to be seen after the first start of the race. Masahiro Hisemi took off and was never to be seen again and won the race. That was Macaw in 1990, whoever you say it. But at the end of the day, let's talk about the slot car in itself. What you may have already noticed is I have removed the original 16 or maybe 17 by 8 wheels and tires. And I have replaced with CB Design 15 by 10. We're going to try and see if we can't better tune this car and be planted. By my math, if we have roughly 8+ millimeters, and then we have 10+ millimeters, if I've got 20 millimeters of width of tire patch touching the ground now versus 16+, to me, I don't know about you guys, but that's simple math. 20% more of the rear of my car is touching the ground. So I'm hoping that'll maybe stop the tipping. As you'll notice, this car was really, we hadn't at the time, and then I guess we kind of adopted it into DTM, but it wasn't even really fair. It's just wasn't a great car. It didn't have great success from not tipping, and you'll notice I'm already missing a mirror on this half, which is annoying to me because I'm kind of a perfectionist with my cars, and I'm the guy that all those spare parts are made for, from Slot.it and NSR and Sideways, where you can buy the spare parts. Because like many of you, I like to keep my cars in their original state. I race them. I'm not going to keep them on the shelf. There are no shelf queens, but I do like them to look right. So I'll be getting another kit to get that mirror back on there. But in the meantime, I never really was satisfied. We'll probably double the weight. Maybe we'll take this weight off of here and we'll put even more weight. The front end is exceptional. The guide is as you would expect. There's really nothing to be done about that. The guide snaps back exactly how I wanted to. I even went with the larger 1004 guide and cut it to size so it's a little bit more bulky. Front axle is exactly where I want it. Spins freely. It's a difficult car to put out there. Oh, these are just test tires on here. These aren't just used tires. Eventually I'll put fresh tires, CB43s, 42s, something like that. In any event, it's just a difficult slot car to deal with. It certainly has a long wheelbase for such a thin chassis car. So we're going to see what we can do. But at the same time as that, you'll notice the Jolly Rancher is out here. So I'm going to do a little bit of a test car scenario as well. Now, this car fits in a class for DTM where we typically use not necessarily a spec motor, but within class specifications, you can run a Piranha or a Slot.it MX-16 V12.4 at 23,500 RPMs. So the Piranha is 21.5. I think it's 165 grams of torque or something like that. And the MX-16 is about 170 grams of torque. But they both fit very nicely, the similar power band and everything like that. But I'm going to give this motor a shot for a couple reasons. I want to be able to offer up different possibilities, not too far out. I don't want to make it more of a modified class. There's already modifications, plenty of modifications you can do at Hobbit Racing Park. Weigh your car appropriately, change your guide, set your front axle up, run whatever gearing you want to, but within reason, we like to try and keep a relatively limited motor specification. We're not making it class specific, as someone might say, well, that's a spec motor. No, again, two different motors, so technically it's not a spec motor. I'm going to test this with this Predator Jolly Rancher, as we all occasionally call it out to be, with that green end belt. 22,005, so it technically fits right in there. And it's 174 grams per centimeter of torque, give or take 2.5 or 5% on the percentages there, as far as, the number of times that they test them. So it would seem to be right in line there. So I'm going to go for it. I think I'll throw a 9-tooth back on there. I've already got a 25, 925, gave a decent profile with it previously. Might be a little bit too much. Maybe we'll go 926, but right now we're at 925. So we're going to go there. We're going to start breaking in that Predator end nut, and we'll see if we can get better handling. Certainly put some more weight regardless here, but we'll see if we can get better handling with the plant on the back. So as you can hear, we are over on the Tack Bench 1.0. We're over here and we are breaking in that Predator Jolly Rancher, and we're breaking it in at 5 volts, but we're running it backwards the first time out of the box. That's a concept that some of us use, not everybody. Again, you can break your motors in water, you can break them in alcohol, you can choose to break them in however you feel it's necessary, but running them backwards sometimes seats the brushes better when they finally get turned in a forward direction. And there's other reasons that, again, I do what I know is tried and true, and I don't always have the best, scientific answer or mechanical function error for you, but I certainly know what works over the course of time. So we're going to take that motor, not in real time with you all, obviously, but we're going to break that motor in, and then we're going to come back and we're going to visit it with opinion, and we're going to see if we can't bring this tune back up to snuff. This is not like, you can tell, obviously the car is taken through a full tune the first time. Those aren't the original slotted wires, not the original gear, everything we wanted to do to tune the car. So let's stick around here and let's see just what I could do with a motor that's relatively close to a motor that we would put in here, just because I want to test this motor. I've never run that ball bearing Predator motor, but at the end of the day, can I stay in the slot with this car? What I was saying before was the idea that really we can still go ahead and check out the weight distribution. I really want to look at just how much I put in there previously. I'm probably going to take a gamble. That's no more than 3 or 4 grams of weight at the beginning of time, maybe even less. It's a very thin piece. There you go, 2.49. It wasn't even 3, right? So for me, I think we're going to come back and we're going to pick something. We certainly don't need tungsten. Let's get our maybe we won't toss the tungsten on the floor, but we can certainly use some of the thicker pieces of lead. We don't have to go down the thin route. We can take a big old chunk of thick stuff. I mean, that's not even funny. That's double, if not triple the size. The thickness. So that's 1 7/8 sheets right there. So we're going to save that though for our guesstimations, where it's rather easy to just take this from a size perspective, and we'll see what the best place to put it up against is. Maybe right there. Wow, miraculous. There you go. I'm loving life. 9 grams. Now some might say, wow, Tony, 9 grams, but what does the whole entire car weigh before the motor goes on there? Well, let's find out. So it weighs 30 plus a body, 20. So you're looking at about 52 grams plus, y'all want to see what a Predator weighs. There you go. Here's one in the box. That's a 22.5, 2021. So in the back of the car, you've got tons of weight to balance things out. So I'm not against putting that entire chunk up there, especially since, again, car is thin and long, wants to tip over. So let's check our fitment here for a moment and lift those motor wires up and see how we did. Well, as I can see from the get-go, what I can't do is can't have that piece elongate unless I fold it slightly. Yeah, that's going to hurt that because that's going to bend. That's going to bend the motor pod. So we'll have to just take the slightest bit off of that unless I turn it around. Maybe I put it in there backwards and leave the flat side against the front. If it's curved in any way. Nope, still got the tiniest little bit there. So we'll just snip the corners and probably call that lead up to a loss at that point. Let's see. Pretty neat, pretty good. There you go. Let's see what that weighs in total, right? I think that already is going to make a tremendous difference for us. So let's see what that weighs. There you go. 9 grams, 8.94 grams. I am looking forward to that helping plant the front end of this car significantly. That is just going to do wonders for it. Not much else places you can put weight. Sometimes weight works in the back of the car. I don't know. I'm not a big fan of it. The motor's in the back of the car. You know, aluminum wheels are in the back of the car. Sometimes it can help plant the car a little bit better. Oh, that's my wheels. Those are the wheels that are on the car. Other times, you know, you never know. You're just actually asking for more trouble for the back of the car to sway. So let's go ahead and put this down on there for the time being. We'll put only half of it down and just make sure this helps us. Just a trick if you've not known this trick. Just peel back or save it or put the whole thing on there if you want to and just save your paper. You never know if you're in the middle of tuning a car until you know. And so why not stick the weight down? Oh, I don't know. Only half of it. Sticky side and figure out whether or not this works properly for you. That's not going to go flying off of there 20, 30 laps underneath it. I didn't do anything wrong to the front axle while I was doing it. No, we still got our good spacing. Oh, and I realized this. This was another blunder of mine. Every once in a while, we get so far ahead of ourselves and we're tuning, and even the best of us, when you're putting a tune together and you don't double check what you've got going on, and again, with a car that's so narrow, it makes sense. I had no axle spacers on the front axle. I have now 0.04 of an inch axle spacer on both sides. Can't remember what 0.04 of an inch to millimeters is, but boy, I'm guessing on camera, you can probably see those spacers. That is, in the grand scheme of things, that's a significant amount of width that was not in consideration before. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, and we'll have to talk about retuning this pod is mainly tight. No, it's not at all. It has some flow to it, but we're gonna go back from scratch. This pod's not gonna be jammed down, but all 4 of those are gonna be brought back. Suck them back up, you know, just flush, and then we'll start backing them off. So let's take a peek at that Predator that's been running half. I don't know, it's been running maybe 20 minutes, and we'll pause and I'll let that break in backwards for a few more minutes and put my weight away, and then we'll get that motor going in what's the forward direction for us. Right hand side, right is red. Over here on this side, so this will be I guess you could call it, I don't know. Does Slot.it call that a reverse motor mount? Maybe they call that a reverse motor mount inline. I can't remember, but the large end bell end is on this side. And you actually do have an opportunity to screw it in on this side, because I can't remember if this is the original that came with it or not. But either way, we'll go with that. And apparently I left the magnet in there. The magnet only is going to add some weight for me. Who knows? Maybe I'll take it out of there. But we'll come back when that motor's broken in. All right, we are up to speed. We are up to 12 volts. We are very smooth. Things are looking very nice on those CB 42s or 43s that are on there, and those CB design wheels. We got our nice Jolly Rancher all broken in, and that 9 grams of weight up there in the front. So we're excited. get this out on the track. Free spinning front wheels. It's always a good thing. So let's get this body on here, make sure we got some good float, put it back on the rolling road for just a couple of moments, and then we'll take this out to the track and see if we made any difference. It sounds very strong again. No issues with body float. We've got a decent amount of body float dialed in there. No pod float, so no rubbing. We're doing fine. Again, we haven't put those inserts in there yet. So I say it's time to put this car out on the track. All right, so I really don't know what to expect from this car. You know, it's been one of those things that you can't really ever say that you're disappointed with a slot car because it's a slot car. And so there's always the modeling aspect to enjoy, at least at the 30-second scale for me. So let's see. Let's see if we got any better results out of this. I can tell you one thing. I should step away from the camera for just a second. You can still hear me at least. Let's get ourselves a weight of this car. It's about the one thing we didn't do. All in total, there you go. Let's do opposite corners again. 81 grams on the dot. Literally. Well, do I have to say it? You know me. 8 and 8. There's some body float. There's no motor pod float. All right, well, that's the first time out of 7 laps that we didn't get the old TrackMate. Now, I was hoping to get into the 5/8, so even that's a success to begin with. I think DTM cars in the blue lane are probably in the success rate of the 5.6s and 5.7s. They don't have the aero of your Group Cs, of your GT cars. I mean, that's almost a GT car, let's be honest. And I haven't even loosened the pod. So I can tell. Now, of course, you could also say, well, Tony, but you put a different motor in there. Yeah, but how much different are we getting? If I couldn't handle the car, then that would be a problem. And I can already tell you the car's handleable because I'm making terrible mistakes not knowing the car, and you can see the cars jumping all over the track. So this is a great sign. This is a great sign that widening the rear of the car, and I wish I had a baseline point to tell you, but all I can tell you is I tuned this car when this track was still at War Eagle River at Scott Culp's house. And every single time I went around the corner, didn't matter how much I turned the brake up, how low I turned the brake up, how much weight I put in it, even though I settled on only a few grams of weight and the pod was fairly loose, it was a barrel roll everywhere. So I can already tell that there's success from putting wider wheels on this car. It's definitely heavier. I'm loving that. So let's get the screwdriver now. Let's start to bring in some pod float. There's no reason to wait on this. We already had a tuned car. So we may as well start getting ourselves, it's about at least a 3/4 of a turn in the back and about 3/4 of a turn up front. And you know what's pretty funny? The washers. The washers are still inside here. I'm not a huge fan of the washers. I don't know. I don't know what that's all about. I'm going to go back another 1/8 of a turn or a 1/4 turn on the back. There we go. Now we got some nice movement and we got some very good body float. I'm sure you can see on camera. That's just the body float right there alone. And then perhaps you can pick up that bit of pod float there in the reflection. Let's give it a shot. I think I'm loving this car. Maybe so much so that I'll even put a Piranha or an MX-16 in it and run this car for the race It is next Saturday for DTM and GT Open. In fact, yeah, you'll get a shot of my mix and match. I don't know if this car has ever been on camera. My Ferrari F430, my Hornsby old original by way of Lola rims in the rear. And the same principle here, ironically. Maybe even 15 by 11 in the rear on that one. Fully aftermarket rear end on that. But now I'm digressing. Let's get this Castrol car cranking again. All right, sorry for the interruption there. As I was saying, I think that 5.6, 5.7 for DTM is probably right where you want to be. And now I've got the pod loosened up. So car is easily driving in the 5.8s, which might be 5.77. You know, might be where the car wants to be. But boy, I'll tell you something. Different slot car with 9 grams of lead in there as opposed to the 3 that were in there before. Much needed for a car this narrow, and definitely a situation where I just don't think this car is it's not an agile slot car with the standard Slot.it, what are they, 17.3 by 8.5, or even if they were the 16.5 by 8.5s in the rear, the stance is just not going to cut it for a car like this. Now I get it. There's consistency in production. So whether you buy an Alpha 155 like I have up there, or an Opel Calibri like I have up there on the shelf, you're going to get 17.3 by 8.5 in the rear, and you're going to get whatever by 8.5 in the front, because that's the production and it's consistent. But when you have that inline pod, you can go places when it comes to your wheel wells. You have so much depth inside of there. So let's keep going. Let's see what we can do. And, you know, again, I'm trying to be apples to apples as much as I can. Sure, did I put a motor in there that I've never, you know, tested before in this classic car? Yes, it's a 22,500 RPM motor. It has about 170 grams of torque, I believe. And so that's right in line with the things that we do. So to say that I'm happy with this is an understatement. I have to imagine that I'm going to be in a good place DTM-wise. And shoot, maybe I'll run it as a test car next week. So I'll take myself out of the running for the podium. Or I'll get a Piranha from the stash, break in a Piranha, and put a Piranha in there. And then we'll see about the differences of overall speed versus handling. But I can already tell you this car handles miles and miles ahead of where it handled before. So let's do a few more laps. Maybe I can back away from here and you can see how it handles in the sweeper. Maybe you can see just how well it handles in certain areas. There's no doubt it's a narrow car. You're going to see some wobble, but again, I'm still at 8.8 either. I haven't really tested the takeoff power, but it's not so much about the takeoff power. No one's questioning what I have going on here in terms of how I want to gear the car or anything like that. Yeah, it's definitely quite the difference. I'm not so concerned about the takeoff power. I'm more concerned about the overall handling of the car. There we go, another 5.77. That's a good time. And it's really to the point where now I'm trying to overdrive the car, right? I'm driving super wild now. You should really see the car start to fishtail. I'm just trying to jog it loose, right? I'm just trying to make mistakes left and right. Just shove it all over the place. There, you see that? It's just fishtailing left and right, leaning on the gas. There you go. I finally deslotted it, right? So that is way better a result than I had. So I would recommend firmly, and I'm, you know, maybe somebody else already done this. You know, again, we're just putting content out there so that people understand that there's a way to make minor changes and minor improvement. If you want to run the car the way it came out of the box, absolutely go for it. But I'm showing you right there that whether you leave the motor that came with it, and in fact, I probably borrowed this motor. Let's be fair. I think this car came with an MX-16. I must have used it for something else because I was dissatisfied with the way this car was performing and I needed it. So I think I stole the motor for some other tune. But this car didn't even come with the DTM because the DTMs come with the MX-16 V12-3, which is actually a 21,500 RPM motor that has even less torque than the MX-16. I guess maybe that's called the MX-15. I can't quite remember Slot.it's nomenclature for that. But at the end of the day, this is a great result. Plant the car, get more weight in it, and widen the stance on the rear by 20% more contact patch, and it's a different car. It's not even close. It's a completely different car. So I'm happy with it. I think I'll glue that 9 grams in place. It didn't seem to want to stick too well the way I had it, and we'll see. Like I said, this is certainly not a test of how we run DTM on this track because of the choice of motor that I made, but it's a relatively comparable display because of a motor class that's right around 170 grams, give or take 5 grams per centimeter, and within 21.5 to 23,000 RPM. So I don't expect there to be a whole lot difference. Lots of detail and data out there about the Jolly Rancher, as it's referred to sometimes. It's a great Predator motor. It really is. Predator makes great motors, and so maybe we'll think about eventually opening up that class of motors that you can run in those 23,000 RPM classes to this motor. We'll see. So I'm going to do a couple more laps and hang out with me and see if I can't beat that time. I might even turn my sensitivity down a little bit. Drive a little bit more clean this time and try and really turn up the heat on that 577. There it is. Turn up the heat. 1/1000th, folks. I gained 1/1000th. So I think no matter what, it's certainly time. And and by the way, again, more comparisons in terms of, a lot of people talk about old quick slicks, old super tires versus new super tires, new quick slicks. Some tires aren't that worn in. You don't remember it, and you might have taken them off a certain car. I think these tires are going to be fine for this car. I think that's a competitive time. I don't believe these were even the newest of quick slicks. They probably were borrowed from something else. I tend to do that when I tune cars. It might be a bad habit just to grab old tires when I'm first going through the tune, and then I put new tires on that I really see how extreme I can bring the tune up to. But in this case, I don't really think it's needed. I think this is a good competitive spot to be. I'll find out when I compare other DTM times. Maybe I'm not telling the whole story, but I certainly feel like this is in a good place. So now maybe I'll try and get below that 577. There we go. I think we can settle on that. 574. So 574, I think we're in a great spot. We always used to say that if you could get in the 5.8s when this track was at Scott's house in blue, you were doing pretty good, or 5.7s, 5.6s. And, that was usually if you weren't running a boxy DTM car, you weren't running maybe an 18K motor like a Fly that we do for Fly Classics or other classics that fit in there. But when it came to running a Slot.it GT car, when it came to running, Le Mans prototypes or Group C cars, if you could be around there in blue, probably doing pretty good. So I hope you can see that there's some gain that you can get out of this car. And, again, whether you take advantage of that gain or you do other ways to tune it to race it, there's been suggestions of taking it down to an 18K motor, other types of things. But you can run it still successfully with a 23K motor and just really make some minor adjustments. So thanks for watching. If you enjoy this kind of content, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, give me some likes, and leave some comments. It really helps us out with the algorithm on this channel where we're doing these little things with these little cars. Thanks for watching.
If you don't subscribe to Public Racing, I'll poke you with my staff. Pokey, pokey, pokey.
She will poke you with her staff.
Pokey!